I did door-to-door for 5 years. Really nothing quite like a door-to-door summer education.
Were you thinking about ways out of the industry?
I didn't want to be the day trader that was glued to screens all day. I wanted it to be unbiased in the same way that the actual skill set is unbiased. This is for everyone. This is for anyone.
The community part is fantastic. This is the value of this.
The whole goal is to be emotionless. You guys are getting an awesome preview into really how to manage your portfolio. It took me 3.5 years.
Thank you.
It's the same beautiful aspects that sales has, where it's a game, it's competitive, it's, exciting.
All right, what's up, Door-to-Door World? JP Arlie here with Jeremy Lieber podcast. Super excited to have this one because I'm actually personally invested in this podcast. Jeremy, obviously some people know you from the space, but why don't you start with your door-to-door background, tell everybody where you've been, what you've done, and then we'll talk about what we're doing here today.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Jeremy Lieber. I did door-to-door for 5 years, managing teams in pest control, 2 years in a VP of sales role. 5 years at GreenX Pest Control.
Shout out to GreenX.
Shout out to GreenX, that's right. And then 2 years as a VP of sales for Proof Pest Control. Both were awesome. Learned so much in door-to-door. As most people listening to this know, there's really nothing quite like a door-to-door summer education.
Where did you go?
Let's see. Spent a summer in Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, Long Island, New York. A little bit of time in Florida and Arizona. And then when I was VP of sales, we had 7 offices throughout the Midwest.
Right on. So, bugs in Florida have like passports, right?
Yeah, there's not much pest control can do for it. No, I'm just kidding. There are some nasty bugs there, though. There's some crazy bugs.
Right on. So I'm going to assume that during that time knocking doors, you were looking for a career or maybe a path that led off the doors, which typically, if you're good at what you do, and you must have been if you moved into a VP role where you can build and lead teams, as you all know, on the doors, you don't necessarily get off. You just never knock alone anymore, right? If you're going to go knock, you're good because you're training or you're visiting teams, and the pressure to perform for sole contributor to provide for your family changes, right? So you come home in the summers, and we're going to talk a little bit about day trading or scalping, which is what you do now. So tell everybody what you do now.
Yeah. So actually, during pretty much the entire time I was knocking doors, I was trying and attempting to become a day trader and day trade the stock market. And so I've been trading now for 8 years, full-time for a handful of years, and started a company called Uncommon Education Trading, where we teach people how to do what I do, which is day trade the stock market for less than an hour a day. Okay.
So Uncommon Education, where'd that name come from?
So I am not a scholar myself. I went to 1 semester of college. I got a 2.0 GPA because that's what the football team required to stay on the team in my scholarship I was on. So I knew school was never for me. And in a lot of ways in the door-to-door space, had a lot of people tell me, hey, if you don't go to school, you're never going to be successful. You got to go get a master's. You got to go get an MBA. And so the idea of an uncommon education, kind of the things you wish you would have learned in school but didn't, it's kind of an ode to the people that, told me that would never really make it if I didn't go to formal education.
Cool. So part of the theme of the podcast is I want to bring people in that are doing that are taking their door knocking education and moving to another industry. Now I've spent 30 some odd years in this in-home services space, and everything I own is because of this in-home services space. I met my wife on the job, right? I think it's amazing, but I'm also, I have a different pedigree. I'm college educated. I have some executive experience. And so I have options, right? A lot of guys come through and gals come through and they knock. They have, my parents were teachers. So they to their benefit, made me go to college. And I felt this, they didn't make me actually. It was just assumed that I went and I wanted to go, and I graduated, and I always knew that. And the funny thing is, during my senior year, UC Davis Aggies, go Aggies. That's how I used to ski up at Squaw Valley all the time. We'll talk about Truckee here in a minute. Is I got a job selling, and I was interning with Merrill Lynch, right? My plan was to go work Market Street in San Francisco and got a job selling. And as a college athlete, you're going to pay me with trophies? Like, let's go, right? I was so pumped. And then I remember, I had one more year of eligibility, and I went home for the summer to sell. And I went to the gym the first day, get a key to the gym. My dad was a teacher, unlocked the gym, walked in, looked at all those rusty ass weights, and I'm like, I'm done. I literally went back to my car, went home, made some phone calls, set some appointments. And I told my dad, they had cut our JV team. So, the freshmen were going to get some spot, like everything was changing. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to go sell. So I really loved selling, and I really loved the world, but I get calls weekly, and Sam gets calls probably daily of people that are looking for ways to earn income that to get them away from the doors. So that was kind of a long monologue to the question here, but walk me through your mindset. You're a bit younger than I am. Your mindset of coming home, married, maybe kids coming on the way, and like, were you thinking about ways out of the industry? Is that how you got into day trading, or what was the reason for it?
Yeah, so I actually loved my time in the door-to-door space. And even when I was just first married, I was like, I could do this for a long time. Really, really enjoyed it. And then as most people, had a little girl, right? And as soon as you have a kid, and for me, I mean, she has me wrapped around her finger. It is insane. I just knew like, okay, I've got to figure something out because kindergarten will be here before I know it. I want her to have a neighborhood where she can stay and not have to move out every summer. And not that's necessarily a bad thing, but I just knew that it was, there was a expiration date in the door-to-door space for me. So that's where I am a huge hobbyist as well. I love golfing. I love fly fishing. I love traveling. And so I wanted to find a way to make money where I could do things I wanted to do, similar to the freedom that door-to-door brings, but also be a little bit more, let's just call it self-reliant in the sense that I didn't have to rely on others or certain locations to make that type of money. And day trading just checked all the boxes and fit the bill.
How did you learn about it? How did you get into it?
So I always had interest in day trading, and it sounds really funny. There's no like moral reason for it. I mean, literally when I was growing up in high school, I thought, what's the easiest, fastest way you can make money? That's where day trading came into play. And I was like, okay, there's like dealing drugs, there's becoming a professional poker player, there's day trading. Day trading seemed the least sketch of the three. And I didn't know how people were doing it, but I knew that people were doing it, right? You look at the wealthiest people in the world, most of their money is in the stock market. So I was like, I don't know how to do it, but I know that people are doing it. So I had interest in it, since I was 16 years old. And then, door to door, you get that commissions check, you get some money. And I very ill-advised took a $15,000 commission check, put it in the stock market. You can probably imagine.
How long did it last?
I just remember I was trading stock options and I had no idea what I was doing. It was on like an Apple's earning call. They were like rolling out new things about the iPhone.
And like that always goes well.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. I think I lost like $6,200 in like 15 minutes or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, there we go. Like, welcome to the stock market.
Is that walk over to the couch, lay down, fetal position, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, I was, I went into it with a pretty long-term mindset. So I was like, okay, like we'll see what happens. I for sure thought not that was going to happen. It was a moment of shock, kind of like wow, like I severely underestimated, what I'm getting into. That was a pretty funny first experience in the stock market. But that's ultimately where I started, which was again about 8 years ago on that first investment in the market.
Okay, so my history with my emphasis in finance. I told you before we went on camera, I was interning at Merrill Lynch when I was in college. My plan was to go work Market Street, San Francisco. Got into summer sales and kind of everything else kind of changed for me. The couple of years ago, same thing, COVID, really, right? COVID comes, I had this time working from home, and it's amazing how much more work you get done when you're at home. So the amount of workload I was having at the time, I was like, wow, it's 2:00 and I literally have nothing else to do. And so I've always kind of followed different things. I bought a options course way back in my 30s and went through it. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get into it. So I did my research. Somebody met at HBS, recommended a man named Tom Sosnoff and Tony Batista, some of these very popular traders. Actually, I think Tom Sosnoff created Thinkorswim and then sold it off, right? And so I followed them. So I started watching their podcasts. I started getting into trading. I'm a very disciplined individual. And so they had this, and I for like 14, 15 months, like I was trading on their system consistently, making not the kind of profit you make in day trading, but making steady earnings And as I told you before we went on camera, then I never even heard of Reddit and got walloped on GameStop. Never traded GameStop before, but I'm like, why in the hell is this retail company up $3, right? Like retail, they're going to go, and I'm like, that's an easy, and sure enough, like 2 days in a row made, $400 or $500 a trade, which was a lot for the way I was trading at the time. And then on a Friday afternoon, I got caught going over the weekend with some, I was naked and I woke up in the morning and lost a significant amount of money. And I had been in cash since then. I met you you're right next to us at RoofCon, I think, and we started talking. And if you probably remember this, but I would text you every couple of weeks, right? It took me months to convince myself to kind of get back into this. And I did no research on you. I liked your vibe. I watched enough to know that you have a system, that you're structured, and you said some really key things that I hope to draw out here in this interview about the way you trade. And so I actually, with my own money, joined your mastermind after probably 6 weeks of stalking you. And the ironic thing is, before you walked in today, as I told you, like I got charged for my mastermind when you were coming in. I was like, oh, there it is. They do a payment plan, so one of the installments hit right before you walked in. And so I believe in what you're doing. I think there's real value in there if you follow systems, right? So let's start with that, right? So if people are going to jump onto day trading, and I have a friend that made hundreds of thousands of dollars blindly trading Apple. And then at a point in his life, he thought that was a good place to go, and then lost probably 5 or 6x that, thinking he could just plug a money in and it would be always rainbows, right? Yep. So maybe walk through Uncommon Education and some of the structure and the importance of, quote, day trading / scalping that you teach.
Totally. So what's cool about the stock market in general is the principles we teach at Uncommon Education Trading are teaching you how to take your money and grow that money both long-term and short-term. And most people have at one point attempted to trade the stock market, whether that's through Robinhood, Webull, right? Those kind of free, really colorful, bright, user-friendly accounts that you can download and apps. A lot of people during COVID, the crypto boom, the GameStop boom, everything that happened there.
You call it a boom.
Yeah, boom, bust, whatever you want to call it. It was wild. And I have so many funny stories throughout that whole time as well. But ultimately, what it comes down to is it's really not hard to make money in the market, but it's extremely difficult to keep that money.
Right.
Extremely difficult. And so at Uncommon Education, when I became profitable as a day trader, I quickly realized, in my opinion, that there was really no good training platform where if someone wanted to just say, cool, there's so much chaos, there's so much noise around day trading. How do I get started? How do I even get started in the stock market? Where do I even go? Because if you Google day trading, it's overwhelming, the amount of content.
I've never done it.
I would not recommend it. It's overwhelming. But we wanted to create a system that organized the chaos and made a simple, easy to understand, easy to digest system to where you could be consistently profitable, whether you traded 1 day a week, 5 days a week, whether you're just investing long-term, whether you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to play with or hundreds of dollars to play with. And what's cool is as we started kind of promoting my system and the different strategies that we use, we came to realize how many people are trading blindly or are investing in the market without proper systems in place, rules, things of that nature. And in sales, it's very similar to a script, right? You have to funnel and take someone through a sales process, lots of soft closes before the hard close, right? You have to be in control of the conversation. You have to use correct tone, correct body language. And so trading is no different, where you have to have parameters in place to eliminate variables that could cause inconsistencies. And what we do at Uncommon Education is provide a few very simple strategies, very much if this, then that type statements. And the key, root of everything that we do is every position we take, every trade we take, you are in a spot to where if it goes well, you will make more than you could potentially lose on the trade. And that's called a reward to risk ratio. And this is a really important principle just in life in general. You want every situation you are going to put yourself in to have a greater upside than greater downside, right? If it's flipped, it's not a good situation for you. And so as an example, with our systems, if you were to put $100 into a trade, if it goes according to plan, or you enter a successful trade, you're going to make $25, $30, $40 plus on that move. If it goes poorly or doesn't work the way that we want, the idea is to lose $10, $15 on that trade. So even if you have a 50% win rate, which is not very good, means you're not seeing the system very well, you make $20, you lose 10. You make 45, you lose 15. You make 30, you lose 10. You're still gonna be super profitable and make really good money. And then once you get to the point where you're right 7, 8 times out of 10, that's where you can be really consistent and see a lot of exponential gains. And so the system that we teach really is risk management, capitalizing on the potential of setups, but preserving capital and providing a literal system to where every day you can find a good setup in a short amount of time. And I mentioned this earlier, but for me, the system that we teach, I didn't want to be the day trader that was glued to screens all day. Right. I just have never been that guy. And I think a lot of people...
Maybe my favorite thing you said in the process is, and there's a couple things I will share, but that was one, is because we live here on the West Coast, right? We could literally be done before we would have to go to work or take the kids to school.
100%. And I think in door to door, that's like the huge appeal, right? Is that, you can wake up, once the summer is over, and you can do what you want. And even during the summer, you have a lot of freedom, right? And so the idea of going to a 9 to 5, even a high paying 9 to 5 for door to door guys it's almost like insurmountable. Like they can't put themselves in that position. And so I knew that I needed to find a way to do it in a short amount of time. Luckily, the stock market, the first hour of the market being open, is the most volatile, meaning it moves the most, which creates the most opportunity. And so, we teach a system now that, again, I've been trading for 8 years and I've gotten, pretty good at. And we are looking for 1, maybe 2, at the very most 3 trades during a 1 hour time frame. And then, spending the rest of your day doing what you want to do. And the system that we have rolled out and what we teach, it's helped people of all different age groups, all different demographics. We have people who are 75 and retired who are now not touching their 401ks because of the money they're making in the stock market. We have kids right out of high school, 18 years old, right, who are learning how to invest in the market. We have business owners, entrepreneurs, a lot of salespeople, a lot of real estate individuals, stay-at-home moms. We have professors at universities who trade with us before they go teach. The reach has been pretty cool.
Yeah, let's touch on that, because you just hit a lot of different demographic thought processes, and I'll tell you some of the ways it related to me. Right. So one, you have the entrepreneurial side, where quote you can decide if you're going to work, or decide. Like I was in Texas all last week, so I didn't even open it up because I was in a different time zone. I had to meet people at 8:30 at the office, which, and I didn't Jones for it. I thought about it, but I didn't even study when I was out because I was there for doing some other things. And then you have the I don't call it the gambler side, but we talked about via text poker, right? And so the way this has helped me learn is now there are people who say they can play poker, and there are people who've actually spent hours and hours and hours and hours at the table, and tens and lots of hours, right? And living in LA, I played a lot of cards before kids, and you learn systems. Like people would ask me, how do you play ace king suited? And I'd be like, well, that depends. What does it depend on? Am I early? Am I late? Who am I playing with? All the different variables that go into it. And what Uncommon Education did for me is it removed a lot of those variables. It's like, how do you play that? Well, it depends on these 3 things, these entry points, these confirmations that you talk about. And it makes it really easy because, as you play at a higher level in poker, for example, the players at the table, in low ends, you can't bluff someone who doesn't know they're being bluffed, right? At the high ends, you can predict things based on positioning and the amount of money you have in front of you compared to them. And I draw a lot of similarities in what you do in Uncommon Education. Then you mentioned professors, right? Really traditional. My dad's a school teacher. He's a very much, cut and dry. There's only one way to do it. Kind of gets up in the morning, has his coffee, has his toast, and does his routines. And it also feeds that. So it feeds the entrepreneur. It feeds, I don't want to call them gamblers because I'm not a gambler, but I'm a skilled poker player, right? And so there's a skill to it. So the dopamine hit that comes from making a good trade, the dopamine hit comes from making a good play at a poker table, but also people get the dopamine of checking something off their to-do list, like my dad would. So you've created a system, whether you did it intentionally or not, that really kind of targets people's different personality traits. So I don't know if I really have a question in there other than, did any of that resonate with the way you run your program?
Absolutely. And I think for me, those of you who know me, and I have a ton of friends still in the door-to-door space, very much an advocate for it, and love my time in it. But anyone who knows me knows I am Switzerland. I am the middle ground. I am super unbiased, right? I can see both sides. My grandpa is actually from Switzerland, so I'm a fourth Swiss, so it's kind of funny. Maybe that's where the demeanor comes from. But yeah, the system we created, I wanted it to be unbiased in the same way that the actual skill set is unbiased, where yeah, you're a mother of 3 at home and you're working 2 jobs and you have an extra hour in the morning and $400 to invest in the stock market. This is for you. Or you just sold a 9-figure business, you're sitting on 15 million of cash you're trying to deploy and you want to learn how to invest in the stock market. This is for you, and everything in between. And I think that's what's cool, is it really doesn't care where you're from, doesn't care who you are. I was horrible at math. My worst.
I saw your calculator out this morning.
Oh, I mean, we're talking, I think on the ACT in high school, the lowest score you can get is a 13, and that's for like filling out all the answers. And I got a 13, and I'll never forget, I took the ACT with a golf pencil. So I was playing in a golf tournament later that day, and I didn't have an eraser. And so there was multiple times I would fill out the ACT an answer, and I was like, oh, I don't think that's right. And I was like, well, that's what it is, because I didn't have an eraser. So I always tell people, if I can learn, and now with numbers, percentages, if I can learn how to do it and make a career out of it, I mean, literally anyone can, because it was so against my nature to be good with numbers.
So there's a couple of different products you offered. I don't even know if I know them all, because I just here at D2D Experts, I see the value of our mastermind. We have, for those of you who don't know, we have 3 masterminds. We have one for CEO and business owners, and then we have one for sales reps and one for sales managers. And I see the value of people, what they spend to join those masterminds, the value we give them. But when I'm out in Tyler, Texas last week, and the guy was like, yeah, I was a $4 million roofing company until I invested in Sam's mastermind, and we'll do 7.5 this year, right? We almost doubled their business, and they happily wrote a check for me to go out and consult for 2 days. And they're looking for the next, to go to 10 million. And so I knew immediately that if I was going to get involved, that I was going to, be involved at the top. But in that process, after I signed up, your staff was great. They very quickly, I texted you. It was like, I was in St. George. And I was taking a text you like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I got an email from the woman, like 5 minutes after I told you I'm in, and she's on it, and which was great. And then she followed up, which was fantastic. But once I got access, then I realized there was an online portion to that. There was a community to that. And so I don't even know if I can do justice on walking through your products. So why don't you just give us an education on the different ways people can get involved with Uncommon Education? Totally.
And what's cool is it's very similar to any type of education, where depending on how you learn and depending on the speed at which you want to learn it, we offer different programs and different things. What we are kind of known for, and what we primarily do, is our mastermind program. We do it once a quarter. And as a side note, it's pretty funny. We have enough need right now where we could probably be doing one a month. But when I started Uncommon Education, I vowed that I would never let the education side make me feel like I had a job, right? Because that was the whole point of day trading in the first place, was get away from the job, get away from having to do things. And so, for a year is really fun for me. I'm a really good teacher and I love doing it. But it still gives me the freedom to do what I want when I want. And so, yes, these quarterly masterminds we do, it's a 5-week program, an hour in the morning before the stock market opens. And I essentially walk you through how to do what I'm doing, which is day trade, whether that's on a full-time basis, part-time, 1 day a week, 5 days a week, whatever your goals are with it. Pretty cool. It's all done over Zoom, open interaction, where we learn together the systems, then we trade together. I'm personally reviewing all the trades you take, giving you feedback on what your natural tendencies are, right? You may have an issue of holding on to a loser too long, where the guy next to you might have an issue of cutting his winners short.
Well, my current issue is I just want to trade. That's yes. My current issue. It wasn't until today when I realized, like, it's just one a day. I was trying to trade 3 a day. In my mind, I had to get 3 in. I was like, well, when my first one's a winner, right? And then I'm like, I got to get 2 more in. And then the third one always like, why? I was like today was the day I was like, oh, I just need one. I didn't trade at all today because I didn't see anything. But anyway, so you have the mastermind, 5 weeks watching you every hour in the morning. And then what other ways?
Yeah. So, and then with that, which is cool, is you get access to our community where every single day I send 3 to 4 potential plays based on the strategies you learn in the mastermind. We live trade as a group 1 to 2 times a week. Really cool, where I share my screen. You can see live as I'm talking through the strategies and seeing it, happen in real time. We have a trading help channel where every day you could submit your trades, have them reviewed by myself, other analysts. So there's lots of ongoing help from there. And then we have
let me pause you on that, because this is the value of this, because I see it in the value of our masterminds, the chat community that we have, is many times you or your staff don't even get to answer the question before the mastermind members are answering it for people. And if anybody who's been in education or training knows that when you teach, you learn. I always talk about my kids. So when I get in here, my 13-year-old, I make him watch the same hitting videos I watch, so he can teach his 9-year-old, because I know he's going to learn more by teaching his little brother than by listening to me, right? So that the community has been great, because I running our mastermind here, I'm like, oh, Jeremy's not going to get to that answer, and sure enough, somebody else answers it for you, somebody else in the group. So the community part is fantastic. Do you only get access to that if you're in the mastermind, or do you get access to that if you're in another piece?
So with the mastermind, you get lifetime access to that, which is great. And then we have a lesser offering, which is Uncommon 2.0, which is it's about 3 hours worth of content that what we go over in 5 weeks in the mastermind. It's pre-recorded in about 3 hours of the same content.
It's actually 90 minutes when you listen to you in 2 times speed.
And 45 minutes if it's at 6x speed.
No, but I listen to it at 2 times speed, and that, awesome. But yes. So 3 hours of 2.0, and then you get access to the chat.
So then it's a monthly fee to remain having access to the chat. So you pay for the course, which is the online, recorded video, of myself teaching all the strategies, how to set up your account, the whole 9 yards. And then that community with the live trading help channel, the potential plays, that is a monthly fee after that. The live trading is reserved just for the mastermind members.
Okay. So. Personal feedback. I think the potential plays are worth a lot more than live trading.
I agree.
Okay. So hey, I'm in, so I'm good. But for those of you who jumping in after me, the potential plays, because the way you set them up, I sit at my computer saying, Jeremy, hurry up, man. It's 7:05. I got to intro myself. Hurry up. But I think the potential plays are great. And then there's other members that have hosting ability that give their which I don't know much about, because I haven't learned about these gentlemen yet, but I assume they're gentlemen. Somebody named King, right? Alex could go either way. Then I saw a video, so I know who he is. But these other members have earned the right to post their ideas as well, which is you sharing your platform with other people that have platforms, from what I can take.
Correct. And so we have other professional traders who will actually give their trade analysis as well. Within these groups, not only do we have, some of our traders posting like when they enter, when they exit, about as simple as you can get to being able to follow and see the system in play. But we also have an area where every day we let you know what important stocks are reporting earnings, which could cause increased volatility, when to stay away from them, what days the, federal government is meeting and discussing things that might move the market drastically, and when to avoid or when to play, when there's opportunity. So it's kind of a one-stop shop to really just put you in the best possible chance for success. I kind of tell people it's like during the Tom Brady era in New England. If you get drafted there, it's like maybe you go to the Super Bowl, maybe you win the Super Bowl, but if you're going to do that, you have the best chance possible with the Patriots, right? You've got the team, you've got the coach, you've got the quarterback. So Uncommon, with the potential plays alone, then the trade help channel, profitable strategies, a community of people who have the abundant mentality, right? It really does come down to you just staying disciplined and following the system. It works. And so if you can do that, you will make money and you will be successful.
And it's a lot. Like, being the impatient person that I am, I wasn't going to wait 7 weeks to get involved. So, and I'm also not going to paper trade. And I know you advise that, but if I had to paper trade, I'm like, but I was also smart enough to put a very little amount. I put $1,000 in, a very little amount of money for me. So I made it real. And there are things that I don't even know I don't know yet, but I watched all the videos. I made the trades. I wanted to see like just learning how to like execute in you mentioned scholarship for football, right? Well, there's practice speed, there's game speed, and then you get out of high school and you go to college, and then there's college practice speed, which is faster than anything you've ever done before, right? The speed at which it came at me was, and I needed to learn how to slow things down, which is why I'm not waiting until the mastermind to get involved. Mm-hmm. Because then I'm not going to get the maximum value out of it. And if I had to do it with paper money, then I wasn't going to get up every morning and doing it. By the way, my wife's like, why are you getting up in the morning? But funny story, I had to sit down with my wife and tell her I was going to trade again. Yeah. Right? When you lose significant six figures after being very successful, and like, I remember I had to tell her Friday, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen on Monday, but I have a feeling like. And then market opened, and six minutes later, I'm face down on my bed. Probably had how you felt the first time you lost that $6,000 or whatever it was, but this was significantly more after being very successful. And that pit in your stomach, I had to sit down with my wife and go, hey, I met this guy.
Someone new,
right? And he has a system, right? It's so crazy the way I had to explain it to her. Just to enter, and here's the irony is since I was in cash, which is stupid over the last 4 years, I get it. I've only put in maybe 15% of that into 4 or 5. I think I put, very, very small percentage in, but the amount of money I made on those, on the just the stock purchases has paid for the mastermind. Just putting the money in the market and actually put it into play. I was like, that made me feel even worse, by the way. Because then I was like, I don't even want to backdate what would have happened for the money.
No, you shouldn't. You'd be too sad.
Yeah, I'd be too sad. But so people get on and they get into the community, and there's a lot coming at you. You have all these different trades, and I'm sure you're going to talk about in the mastermind on how to keep it simple. Right. In my notes, because I've journal, I'm like, only play Jeremy's trades, right? Mm-hmm. Because then you're like, oh, look, the watch list. Oh, look, so-and-so. And then I'm hustling to get all these things set up. And then I'm just checking. Wrong attitude, right? Like today I just put yours in and I don't understand the cup yet. So there's only 2 out of, actually that was the watch list, right? There's only 2 out of the 3 I could even set up, but I don't know how to set that one up. So I didn't do it. And they didn't go my way. So I walked and it was great. So people who join the master, or people who join the 2.0, mm-hmm. I'm going to guess that a high percentage of those people end up joining the mastermind.
For sure. And it's almost like, I'm such a big golfer now. I compare it to golf. If you YouTube how to fix my slice, right? You're going to find some good information. It's going to be very generalized, and you might fix your slice. Good chance you're going to be doing things you're not even seeing or recognizing. You might mess up your slice even worse, and ultimately it's going to all lead to the same thing, which is going to, ideally like a Hank Haney, a Butch Harmon,
right.
Be like, hey, you and me, couple months on the driving range, fix my slice. And very, very good chance you're going to fix your slice. And so that's the biggest difference. We try to make the cost of them accessible to anyone and everyone who wants to learn how to do it. We do have people that succeed just by doing Uncommon 2.0, but just being completely frank, a large, almost all eventually, progress up to the mastermind, because there's just so much to be said about someone else being able to have a set of eyes on the trades you take. So much of day trading comes down to your personality and your relationship with money. Some people have a very unhealthy relationship with money, whether they're penny pinchers and they're so scared to lose anything, or the opposite, which is where I more leaned, which is like they didn't care about money. They would just spend it and blow it. And so advice for one person is going to be, advice on deaf ears to the other, similar to sales. There's so many parallels to sales where, if you're describing some feature or benefit to someone, but it's not their need or their hot button, it's not going to convert to a sale. You have to find out what they personally need from your service, and then obviously build value around that. And that's how I teach is, and I credit a lot of it to Door to Door, where I help you identify what your personal strengths and weaknesses are. And that's the difference between break even, being good for a while, then all of a sudden losing it all, and being consistent over time, month to month, year to year.
So there's a couple key components that you put into your training that I think is important. One is the value of a cash account. Because most people, when they I got a margin account. I didn't even know I got a margin account, right? It just happens. And about 25% of what I lost in that stupid GameStop trade. By the way, I couldn't talk about that for a long time. Yeah. well, I had to write a check. like after my account went to zero and they liquidated everything, I had to write a check to get and that was because it was a margin account. But with the cash account, and I even didn't understand, and I got a nice little email from Thinkorswim telling me I was in violation, but they weren't going to suspend me. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I wasn't even aware of what trading rules on a cash account were. So why don't you just educate us there?
Totally. So one of the biggest things that I guess misconception or folklore of day trading is that you have to have $25,000 to day trade to avoid what's called the pattern day trading rule. And if you have a margin account, yes, that is true. And a margin account means that you are leveraging more than what you have to trade, which is a big no-no from the start. And what's sickening about the whole system is most brokerages, they automatically defer you to a margin account because they know that.
Because they want more money in play.
Yes, they want more money in play, which means more money for them. So what a cash account is, and we walk you through how to do this, is...
Once you're in the mastermind.
Yes.
Because it starts this month. I haven't gone through it, but I learned, but yes.
Yes, you will learn how to set it all up. But the cash account, what's beautiful is you can only trade what's in your account, and you can trade with as much money as you want. So if you have $150 to day trade, you could put $150 into a cash account. And the way it works is you can put into play what is in your account each day. And once you have done that, you cannot trade anymore. So as an example, let's say you have $1,000 in your trading account and you want to take 2 trades at $500 a piece. You can do that. You could take 10 trades at $100 a piece, whatever equates, or you could take 1 trade at $1,000, which again, very ill-advised, but you can trade whatever is in your account. And then the following day, it becomes available again to trade plus or minus whatever you lost or won from the day prior.
And I did not understand that, even though I heard you say that. Because I had put the $1,000 in, I made my 3 trades or whatever it was. I'm like, oh, look at that setup. I mean, and it let me, right? And now it doesn't let me. Now it tells me they got me on watch because even though you settle the trade and you're out of the trade and you win or lose or whatever on the trade, it hasn't officially closed or settled on the books, and so they don't want you re-entering. And so I think that is brilliant because the way the degenerate in us wants to, sometimes the poker term is you throw good money after bad. Yep. You make a bad trade, but it's your third and final trade for the day, or you've used all your available capital. By the way, it's accessible. You can see, oh, there's my balance. And I should be able to, you can't spend it. You can't trade with it once you've used it. That protects people from themselves. If they do the second part of this, which is only put a certain amount of money in their cash account. So walk through that part of the system, which I also think is brilliant to protect people.
So a lot of people, again, when you compare day trading to gambling, day trading to investing in the stock market, what we're about to describe is exactly what we were talking about earlier. One of those variables that with the system I've created, we have completely eliminated, okay? A huge issue with people investing in the stock market or day trading in general is over trading, right? Just wanting to continue to trade all day long, right? If we're looking for A+ setups and we're only looking for 2, potentially a third, if you're taking 7 trades a day, they're not going to be A+ setups, right? It's going to be based on emotion, based on greed, based on FOMO.
Boredom.
I mean, people just trade to trade. And so what's cool with the cash account is even if you wanted to be stupid and break the rules, you can't, the way that we set it up. So as an example, and again, this is a little snippet of some of the things that we teach. Let's say you have $10,000 that you want to trade with. Right?
So let's talk about what that means though, because this confused me. $10,000. Let's say you have $100,000 in the bank account that is tied to invest, right?
Well, we're going to go exactly this route, but let's use $10,000 as the example.
So you have $10,000 in the bank account. You have everything else saved, and you all of a sudden you're like, oh, grandma gave me 10 grand, and so now I have this $10,000 that I want to invest with, and I'm going to choose to enter uncommon education with that. So we'll start with that because even though you said this many times, my financial situation is different than other people, and I'm like, well, I have a lot more than that, and it confused me. So we'll just say grandma gave you $10,000. That's the only thing you have, and you want to trade.
Totally. So we'll kind of break it down. So you choose to invest in a course, whether that's uncommon education, somewhere else. Maybe you already know how to day trade. Whatever the case is, if you have $10,000 that you are ready to deploy into the stock market to invest, what we teach as a rule of thumb, and we'll kind of go through it slowly, is we teach that in any trade, you should have no more than 10% of your total account balance. Or
so that's
total
$1,000.
So that's $1,000. And what's great is of that $1,000, we are only going to risk 10 to 15% of that 1,000, which is 100 to 150 bucks. So ideally, if you enter a trade and you have 10,000, quote unquote, money to, invest in the stock market, you put $1,000 into a trade, and
which
you hit
means
your stop loss.
$9,000 is over here in Chase Bank. $1,000.
So we'll get there.
Okay.
Exactly. So if you put $1,000 into a trade, you lose, hits your stop loss, you lose $150, right? Not a big deal with a $10,000 account. But what people do is they will put that $10,000 into their trading account and say,
now this is Thinkorswim is what uncommon.
Yeah, Thinkorswim is what we teach. Again, some people still do use the Robinhood, the Webull. We recommend Thinkorswim by Charles Schwab. It's the GOAT of day trading platforms for multiple reasons. But what people will do is they will put all $10,000 into their brokerage account. And so they will take 2 trades at $1,000 a trade. But then you have $8,000, even in a cash account, $8,000 of deployable cash, where you're sitting there and you're like down a couple $100 and you're just like, oh man, like, you know what, whatever. And then next thing you know, you have $4,000 in a trade, completely breaking all your rules, and you're
nobody ever does this.
No one ever does this. And I've never done this. No chance. No, I mean, this is like the tale as old as time. It's 10 out of 10 people who start trading will do this. And so what we teach, and this is a cool thing as part of our mastermind, is only have, with the amount of money that you have set aside to day trade with, only have 3 trades worth of money in your account. So then if you have $10,000 to trade with
sitting over here in Chase,
you actually only put $3,000 into the trading account.
Thinkorswim.
Right? Because then you take 3 trades at $1,000 a trade, and then you get that itch. It's like, you know what? I'm going to enter again. Well, you physically can't because of the way that the account is set up.
And even if you want to transfer from Chase into Thinkorswim, you can't do it until the next day.
You can't do it on the same day.
So it's like the buzzkill.
And by the time you figure it out, and Inside Out, the movie, like your red guy, as soon as he like chills out, from that kid's movie, the anger where you're seeing red, you'll realize, wow, thank goodness it is set up that way. And so that's what's cool, is it's not like, hey, you have to become this Navy SEAL type of disciplined individual. It's like, no, our system will, it'll take care of your, human frailties. It'll take care of the human desire to make mistakes and to mess up. And so that is one example of countless that we have implemented on Uncommon Education Trading to ensure, 1, you're being smart, 2, you have the best chance to succeed, and 3, that you will stay out of your own way, which is ultimately
and
what it comes.
For people who've never traded or never gambled or played poker, you're like, nah, I wouldn't do that. Well, I don't know how many times I wait for you to sit at my poker table. Mm-hmm. I wait for you to get on tilt and keep on going back to your wallet, mm-hmm. right? There's a reason I don't buy in for what I walk in with, right? I don't want to be able to be emotional about putting, I got 10 grand in my pocket. I only got 1,000 on the table. But you want that money out of play so you can kind of reset. And sometimes I don't even bring it into the game. Sometimes I, leave it in a lockbox at the car. Right? There's a way that you protect yourself. But I don't know how many times I've been at a blackjack table and watched the tourists like get frustrated, keep on going back and back, and I'm like, what's the point of buying in for $100 if you're just going to put it all in one hand? And they just throw money away. And so, this, but for those of you who've never experienced the emotional red of losing and or winning money and the greed and the frustration that gets associated with that, these are some really, really important steps. The third one I want you to touch on, which I've yet to do, by the way, mm-hmm. is how you take profits.
Mm-hmm. So just a little disclaimer as well for anyone listening. When day trading, the whole goal is to be emotionless, right? Like I always tell our members, and even Michelle, my girl at home, or my 2 kids, it's like, you will never know if you walk into a room when I'm day trading, you won't know if I'm up $10,000 or if I'm down $10,000. And that just comes from a seasoned veteran career in the market and all the volatility that comes along with it. But ultimately, that's how you want to be, because when you trade, you want to be trading off of a system and off of a set of rules and parameters, and never off of emotion.
Which is why you start really, really small, because if you didn't know why you were up or down, mm-hmm. especially if you didn't know why you were down, that's where the frustration comes from.
Totally.
But if you do know why you're down, you're like, it was a fluke, right? Like it's like I tell my kids when they play baseball. I got a video of my kid, and the catcher does this and reaches into the batter's box to catch the ball on video, and they called strike 3, and he walked. you couldn't hit the ball if you try. Like, don't get frustrated because that was an unhittable pitch, right? And so, but if you don't know why you're down, that's where the frustration comes from. So anyway, back to emotionless.
Yes. So and remind me the question again.
The question was, people who've never traded before, right? They've never felt the red of winning or losing, and so they don't understand the brilliance of your system. And then the other piece is taking profit. And then you were giving a disclaimer about miss.
Yeah. So it ties in, that whole disclaimer about being emotionless into taking profits, because everything that we do as far as eliminating variables is to help you be emotionless, right? And so one of the biggest mistakes that day traders make, and it's funny, I get messaged so frequently on social media about people in these trades or people in these positions trying to figure out what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And when it comes to profits, one of the biggest mistakes that anyone investing in the stock market can make or day trading can make is leaving profits in your account. Because if you think about it in the sense of, let's say, again, that same example, $10,000, you have $3,000 in the account. Let's say you have a good day and you make $700. So now you have $3,700 in your account. Well, the next day when you're trading,
you're dividing that by 3 and your trades are bigger.
Yep, your trades are bigger, which obviously is going to bring in new issues mentally and emotionally, because the same percent that you're going to be down is going to be different and the same percent up. So your brain isn't ready to usually take that on. But the biggest mistake is people think, I have $700 of profit. And when you have that profit in your account, you do not treat it as real money. You think, let's say you're down $150 on a trade and you're supposed to get out. What your brain will do, and this is not like if or when, it's your brain will do this. You'll say, oh, well, I've got $700 of profit, money I didn't have before. I'm going to hold on to this a little bit longer to see if it works, because this is essentially house money at this point. And anyone who gambles, anyone who day trades, anyone who does anything in this world knows that house money or money that you have earned is like gold. It's precious, right? And so what we teach at Uncommon Education is pulling profits every single time you have profits. Every single day you need to withdraw.
Now, let's say hypothetically, your account was $3,000 at the start of the day and it was $642.18. Do you take $642.18?
$642.18.
That's awesome.
Withdraw it to the bank account. And what we teach, and again, you guys are getting an awesome preview into really how to manage your portfolio as a full-time day trader, is you keep your balance the same at the start of each week. So if on Monday it's $1,000 per trade and I have $3,000 in there, for the rest of the week, that's where it's at.
And if you hypothetically had a week where you lost $150 and it was at $28.50, do you transfer $150 back in, or you just do $28.50?
I personally don't. I then am working back up to get to that base amount.
Okay, and then if you made $200 that day, you just transfer $50 out. So
exactly, transfer.
So I have a great story for you. Before I got into poker, I played. I was single. This life. I had a Porsche and a convertible BMW. Lived in it. Like, I had more money than sense, and I was playing a lot of blackjack. But my respect for money was to a point. I never played with what I could afford. I played with what I could control. Yeah. And so I never bought in for more than $500 ever. Like I'd sit down and buy it for $500, and then I would grind the system and the routine, and that's why I compute. Blackjack, the math is the math. You just have to know when to change your betting unit, right? When you get to a run in a shoe where you're like, I know how to card count, but I never played with card counting. But once you realize that the shoe clumps, you're like, okay, I've won 7 hands in a row. I'm more likely to win an 8th than lose one, right? And so if you're not changing your betting, you're not making money. Anyway, the story is, so for 18 months, I would go to work on Thursday, come home Thursday at 5, 6 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm bored. I'd fly to Vegas from Burbank. I'd call the Hard Rock. They'd send a car, have a room for me. I'd get there like 9 o'clock. I'd gamble, play blackjack until 12 or 1. And I'd fly home the next morning to be at work on Friday. Crazy.
Awesome.
But I would call my mom every time. So she knew, because I always felt this like addictive behavior, right? I went 18 months without losing. Crazy. Like flights paid for, and if you come to my house, I have sports memorabilia. When I would win, I would take the money and I would go buy things. Like for $250, I bought a U.S. Olympic hockey team signed by everybody, including Hubie Bo, because it's worth like $8,000 now, right? But I would take profits from my blackjack and I would buy purses, not for myself, for my wife, buy jewelry, buy sports memorabilia, give money to my family. But then when I'd go back and gamble, $500. The only time that did not happen is I went out, I won 10 grand, got home, flew home, I land. My buddy calls me and goes, hey, County Crows are at Hard Rock. Can you get us tickets? I'm like, when is it? He's like, tomorrow. And I'm like, dude, I just flew back. He's like, let's go. I'm like, all right, fine. So I fly back with 10 grand. I didn't even go to the concert because I lost it before the concert even started. I'm like, because in your head, you're like, in my system every time, like 18 months, never, like literally never going home a loser. And I'm like, well, I just changed the betting unit. I'll start with $2,000 instead of 500. And I was in bed. My wife, my girlfriend, then my wife, and my buddy went to the concert, and I was like, I stopped playing blackjack for like 5 years, and that's when I learned how to play poker. That's the same thing people do, I'm sure, trading.
100%. And stories like that are kind of a part of every trader's journey. Obviously, you're relating it to playing blackjack, but very similarly, again, if any of you who are listening to this know me, very rarely do I leave a casino or something where I can gamble without being up. And, I have, during, the early stages of trading, I would pay, my month's rent and different things with sports betting profits.
Dude, I made my mortgage payment for like a year playing poker.
Yeah, I mean, it's if anything relating to it, and kind of to your point of people being in that same situation, is it's how you view money, right? And it's how you view these situations and putting yourself in the position to where essentially you're the house, right? You're the one who has the statistical advantage to make money. But it's super common, what you described. And what's cool at Uncommon Education Trading is, again, because I now trade with a fairly significant size in the market, we teach you exactly how to start increasing that position size. Because there is a right way and a wrong way. Wrong way is me going in with 15,000, having zero idea what I was doing in Apple earnings 8 years ago, right? Very much the wrong way. And so what's cool is we show you how you can quickly start scaling up to where, we have people who trade with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account now with us at UET, but they all started with $2,000 max, right? When we get going, and what we tell people is, look, if you can't control your emotions or you can't stay disciplined with a very small amount of money, all of your tendencies, all of your weaknesses, they will be exposed 10x when you start trading with more money, because the emotions get higher. Now, there are very few people out there who can just view numbers as numbers. I've only met one really that just like truly does not care about the dollar amount and just focus on the execution. But 99.9% of humans have this, again, emotional issue with money, whether good or bad, that requires a scalable process as opposed to just jumping to a large amount overnight, which a lot of people
It's funny
do.
you say that, because back then with no kids, I remember one time I flew out to Vegas and people came to watch me gamble. I'm like, come on, right? Sit down with $500. They're like $3-4 grand buying in, and they won $3-4 grand. They're like, oh, they win it quicker. I'm down to my last $25 chip, and I stand up to grab my wallet to put more money on the table. And I turned $25 into $30,000. Crazy. That kind of run I went on. Yeah. I ended up walking with 14. They're like, dude, you lost 16 grand. I'm like, no, I didn't. I won 14. Right. And I'm like, and they couldn't I go, you will never win 1,000 because you're off the table before. Right. And so the same thing in trading. So the question I have, and maybe this is, you can defer to the mastermind on this, but let's say you take somebody who's willing to put $10,000 into their account, which is $3,000 trades, because that means they got 100,000 or whatever they can play on. Yep. Sorry, that camera got banged. There's a point in time where they think they get good at it. And instead of taking trading profits and increasing their account, they actually reinvest. I'm imagining you're telling people to use trading profits to make their account bigger and not reinvestment.
For sure. And the reinvestment piece is a case-by-case example, right? Because if someone puts 10,000 in and, they get to a point, it's like, hey, I think I'm ready to, trade as if I have 40,000, right? Someone who has 2 million in their bank account, they can invest their own money into that, right? But those who don't have just, gobs of cash sitting around, the smart way is to do it with trading profits. And to kind of put it into perspective, our mastermind program is 5 weeks long, and we have people who every single time we run these are consistently seeing profits literally the moment the mastermind ends. it took me 3.5 years.
Thank you.
Profitable. Yeah, it makes me kind of upset, honestly, because I look back and I'm like, man, these guys, they just have no idea how fortunate they are to have something like this. It's obviously, I love it. It's why I do it. But no, it's crazy. And so even if it takes you 4 months, 6 months, a year, right? A year seems like an eternity. It took me 3.5 months. And even after those 3.5 months, it's not like I was making
3.5 years. 3.5 years.
So yeah, 3.5 years. Excuse me, 3.5 years. It's not like I was making good money at that point. I was just profitable.
You weren't losing.
I wasn't losing money anymore. So it took me a long time to start making good money doing this. And so it really is cool because unlike most other forms of investing where there's a lot that is out of your control, this, very similar to sales, is a skill. It is a skill-based form of investing where you can make as much money as you want to based on your skill. Not based on market conditions, not based on what's going on, external factors. You personally, your discipline, your ability to follow the system, you're in control of your destiny, right? And very few forms of investing are like that. And I think, kind of playing on the whole uncommon education piece as well, is there's a reason they don't teach this in schools. There's a reason I'm not a professor at some university teaching people how to trade options, because if half the people who took those classes started making money and profiting, could you imagine, right? The amount of people that would stop working day jobs, that would stop, doing things that really make the world go round. I mean, there's a reason why the wealthy and the people controlling things don't teach these types of things. And so it's one of those things that it's not a secret, but it is uncommon. And so our whole goal is like, look, this is for everyone. This is for anyone. It does not need to be some scary thing. I mean, you've gone through our videos. It's so simple the way we lay it out. And I think that the beautiful thing about it is, again, you're the one who's in control, because now, regardless of who gets elected, regardless of what happens with incoming potential wars or anything that happens, right? As long as the stock market exists, I can make money, right? And if the stock market no longer exists, well, probably martial law and hunkering down in our bunkers. So money won't matter at that point anyway, but it really is a lifelong skill set that regardless of what's going on, you can be successful.
You just said something that made me flash back. That's how old I am. I took a futures and options class in college.
Cool.
I did so poorly that the professor at the end of the semester gave me a book that said how to make money in stocks. Awesome. And I just cleaned out a Foot Locker with my kids that I had hadn't opened in years. All my baseball cards were in there and they wanted to see them. So there was the book right on top, how to make money in stocks. So I was like, I remember that. So I think I could probably ask you 100 more questions only because of my desire to pick your brain. But people who got this far in the podcast, they're either like, hurry up and finish JP, or how do I get a hold of Jeremy? How do I get a hold of Uncommon Education? And feel free to, obviously, we're going to try to get this out before the mastermind that I'm joining, which is the 23rd.
Yep, September 23rd.
Of September. So we're filming this on the 6th or 7th, whatever this day is. So we're gonna spin it around and get it out. So people are going to listen to it and go, shoot, I got a very short window to contact Jeremy. And this is by no means a sales play, but you are raising the price of your upcoming masterminds. You are removing lifetime access for upcoming masterminds. So I do want you to plug that for the few people that we're going to jump on this and want to get in touch with you. So how do they get a hold of you? And maybe plug that mastermind real quick.
Cool. So there's a few things. Number one is that if you're coming from the door-to-door world, would love to work with you. Obviously, it was my vehicle to help me be in a position that I wanted to be post sales. But a lot of people who are in sales, Golden Door winners, guys who are killing it, trade in the mornings with us, which is really cool. So even if you're still early on in the door-to-door career phase, it's an awesome opportunity. But a few things. So coming up on September 19th, if this does get aired, in the time which we're thinking, we are hosting a live alternative form of investing night for salespeople where you can come for free, and I'll kind of give you an actionable, hey, here's what the market is, here's some of the strategies, here's some of the results that you can see. Way to meet me. We'll have it in person here in Utah, and we will also be broadcasting it live if you're outside of Utah. So number one, again, that is on September 19th. It's going to be from 11:30 Mountain Standard Time to 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. Best way to contact me is my Instagram, Jeremy Lieber, Jeremy, and then like Bieber, but with an L, Lieber. My nickname is J Liebs. I think I was Jay Leaves before Jay Beebs was Jay Beebs.
Such a Utah thing.
It's up to interpretation, I guess. But then our mastermind on September 23rd, it is, again, the last time we are doing it at the current price. And all that comes down to, JP, is just like I said, I don't want to do more masterminds. So we're just going to continue to raise the prices as demand comes in. So September is going to be our last one at the current price. We do payment plans. We try to get.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't know that. So my decision, I was in St. George. I was like, all right. It was the full package decision in my head. And then you're like, we have payment plans. I'm like, if I would have known that, I would have signed up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. We do interest-free payment plans up to, a handful of payments. It's pretty cool. But the other piece of our mastermind that's important is moving forward right now. Like for you joining the September mastermind, you will get access to all future masterminds we do each quarter, which is so cool, right? To benefit, continue learning, continued education. This is the last time we're going to offer that as part of it. If you want to have that ability moving forward, you'll have to pay the increased mastermind fee plus like a yearly almost membership fee.
For the access to
have access to everything else that we do. So a lot of cool things. This is the last go around with it. Our Instagram page is for the business, Uncommon Education Trading, all one word, all lowercase, Uncommon Education Trading. So you can reach out there, but feel free to reach out to me directly on my personal account, as you can just say, hey, listen to you on Door Experts, or listen to the podcast with JP, and I'd be happy to even hop on a call and give you more details about it. Day trading in general, just kind of the plug in the stock market, is so many people in the sales world have money, right? Have either large chunks of money that come in from paychecks, or have a skill that is producing a higher amount of income than most people their age. And a lot of people are taught, invest that money. And so much of that is geared right now towards real estate, which is awesome, great way to build long-term wealth. But it's such a high barrier of entry, right? As a 1099 employee, a lot of times it's tough to get approved for loans. Coming up with down payments can be pretty expensive. Day trading is such a low barrier of entry where you can learn and develop a skill that makes you money, where literally you can pay yourself every single day that you make money in the market for a fraction of the cost, and really a fraction of the time that is involved to invest in something like this. As anyone who's involved in real estate knows, it's never a truly passive source of investing unless you're some big money into big multi-unit or commercial property. So day trading is, again, a way to help fuel future investments. It's a way to help you understand your relationship with money. It exposes a lot of your flaws as a businessman and individual or businesswoman. And it's because it's all based on emotion. And so you'll quickly find out where you need to improve in those aspects. And ultimately, it provides you with a way to gain time back in exchange for, a skill. And very few things, in my opinion, in today's world can provide you with the time freedom that comes from a skill like day trading, while having basically an unlimited earning potential with that skill. And so if you are interested in what we do at UET, or just interested in day trading at all, you can message me. Even if you don't end up joining any of our programs, I love giving my advice and help, because I was where so many people who are listening to this are not long ago. And I don't talk about this enough, but day trading is so much fun. It is so much fun. It's the same beautiful aspects that sales has, where it's a game, it's competitive, it's exciting. You get such a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment that comes from it. It gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. I have so many examples of people who've gone through our mastermind who have quit smoking after 20 years of having an addiction, who have lost 30, 40 pounds just because they implemented a discipline into their life. Their marriage is better because they finally became patient and understanding, right? Like they have to in the market.
They got to go to bed earlier to get up earlier.
There are so many intangibles like that come from it. So on top of obviously the financial opportunity plus the freedom, you're just going to become a better version of yourself as you go down the path.
And for those of you who aren't door to door that are listening to this, you're probably confused about how much money people in door to door actually make. So I'm not going to talk about that. But one of the things that Uncommon Education puts out, which you do quite often, is what $100 a day is to somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And it's how my brain has always worked is I have an account just for my kids. That's where their private school education comes from. That's where their baseball bats come from. And that account gets funded through a certain type of work I do, and the checks go there, right? And they're just like, as long as I do that certain type of work, that they go, and that will eventually go to their college, right? So the way my brain works is I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to get up and trade an hour every day, and whether it's $100 a day or $300 a day or $500 a day, whatever it is, that will go into this account, and that will pay for that, right? And my day job pays for this. And so those of you who aren't in door-to-door that are looking for what I would think would be a skill-based secondary income opportunity, if you're into the math and you're into the numbers and you're into the emotion of pulling, it's about decisions. I think life is about learning how to make the right decisions at the right time. And I think I texted you one time that a good decision that ends in a bad outcome is still a good decision. And that happens a lot. You made a good entry, ended in a bad decision, or a bad outcome, but it's still a good decision. So, all right, reach out to him. Uncommon Education, Jeremy Lieber. It was fun for me, at least. I've been looking forward to this podcast. I'm glad you came in. And if you can make the 19th, do we have a location yet on that?
We do. Let me pull up the address. So
you can also just ping Jeremy to find out when the location is.
Absolutely. So the location, it's in Grove Station in Pleasant Grove. So I'll say this twice. It's 273 South, 2000 West in Pleasant Grove. Again, that's 273 South, 2000 West in Pleasant Grove. We're going to cater lunch. So lunch will be provided. It's something that you're going to need to register for. If you hit me up on either social, we'll send you the registration page. But again, it's just going to be a cool way for you to come learn about the stock market, get the basics idea and understanding of some of the things we've been talking about today. And you can meet me and ask me questions about that.
Yeah, I encourage you, if you had interest at all, to go, because as I already said, it took me like 6-7 weeks to work through my head what I really want to do, and I stalked you on Instagram until I understood enough to be able to ask intelligent questions. So awesome. Thanks for coming in today. I know you got a golf appointment this afternoon. Right. You got to get to. Appreciate you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks.